welcome to the Monday evening.
Love ball like I do. After Dark's a must listen.
That's where I go to get my hoops fixed.
This is Field of 68 After Dark.
Welcome to the Field of 68 After Dark on this Wednesday night, a massive Wednesday in college basketball, as big of a night as we've had this season, so we have a loaded show for you. I'm Jon Fanta. We've got the pride of the North Carolina Tar Heels, John Henson here. We've got the Philadelphia fan. We've got the founder of our network, Rob Dauster here. We've got Jeff Goodman coming up. Fellas, we're not going to waste any time. I'm going to start the night with this big nugget from our own Dagan Hughes. For the first time since December 10th, 1983. December 10th, 1983. So you are talking about 41 years ago. 3 of the Associated Press top 5 teams in the poll have lost a non-conference game on the same night as Duke over Auburn goes final. The Blue Devils hand Auburn their first loss of the season. But we begin, as we would do in any circumstance while we're waiting for Jeff Goodman, because Rob, the number 1 team in the country, whether you think they are or not, they were the number 1 team in the country. They fell tonight. The Kansas Jayhawks fall to the Creighton Blue Jays. This is a statement maker for Greg McDermott's team. Final score, Creighton 76, Kansas 63. Your immediate take on Creighton's win over Kansas is what?
This is the Creighton team that we've been expecting to see for the last 4 weeks of the season, right? This is the Creighton team that we sat here on the show on the Big East preview and talked about as a potential Final Four team. That was the Ryan Kalkbrenner that we have been waiting to see since the season began, right? Pop Isaacs was unbelievable tonight. When you're going to get 44 points and 10 assists out of Pop Isaacs and Stephen Ashworth, that's going to be a difficult team to beat because you know you're going to get your 17-10, 18-10. You're going to get your defense out of Ryan Kalkbrenner. I thought it was a really impressive performance and one that, you know, I do feel a little bit for Kansas in the sense that they are coming off of the win over Duke in Las Vegas, right? They are walking into an Omaha, an arena in Omaha that holds 19,000 people, where Creighton desperately needs a win after what happened to them at the Players Era Festival, right? After losing at home to Nebraska, after some of the early season struggles they've had, and they walked into a buzzsaw. You know, this is about as healthy as Creighton's been in a while. All season, they've been dealing with some injuries. Pop Isaacs missed the game. Stephen Ashworth missed the game. Ryan Kalkbrenner missed the game. Now you got them all back. Now you got them all healthy. They're playing at home. Number 1 team in the country is coming into your building, and 19,000 people are going nuts. You know, this is why college basketball is great, because the number 1 team in the country can go into that building and get their ass kicked.
John Henson, I want to give you these 2 notes on this game. 1, DeJuan Harris takes 21 shots. 6 for 21. It was part of the game plan. Greg McDermott said, I'll just let him shoot all night. He did. It was wide, you know what, open. The other one is this. Hunter Dickinson takes just 4 shots in this game. 4. And accounts for 6 points on the road against Kalkbrenner, who's a 3-time Big East Defensive Player of the Year. But it just felt like Kalkbrenner owned Dickinson in this matchup of 2 of the best bigs in college basketball, John. Oh, we're not hearing John, it sounds like.
John is muted.
My bad. But that's been one of
what were you, start your point again, John. What would you make of Kalkbrenner over Dickinson? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that's been Hunter Dickinson's kryptonite over the last few years, size and length. And Kalkbrenner brings that to the table and more. You know, I kind of treat Hunter Dickinson how I used to play Steven Adams. If you could get him out of the game early, he's a lot easier to handle. And I think that's what Creighton did. Hunter Dickinson looked uninterested. kind of looked like he just was over it. He wasn't getting the touches he usually gets. And, even more impressive, I mean, this was a wire-to-wire win against, quote-unquote, the best team in the country. So a healthy Creighton, looks like this could be their ceiling, man. They could be one of the top teams in the country. They've got some ground to make up with a couple bad losses. However, they have the time, and they're going to be good coming down the stretch.
Yeah, and I think more than anything, John, is we know where Kansas is going to be at the end of the season, right? Like, look, you go on the road, you lose a game like this, it happens. It's not the end of the world. It wasn't the greatest matchup. The way that Creighton plays, just kind of putting Kalkbrenner in front of the rim, it's a really easy way to negate what Kansas does best, which is like the getting the seals and getting the pins and trying to create ways to get angles for Hunter Dickinson to score, right? Like that's kind of what their offense is built on. So like this stuff kind of happens. What matters here is that Creighton has taken some losses. The Big East overall has taken some losses. And now they're going to have a 13-point win over a team that we know is going to be in and around the top 5 or the top 10 of every single metric that is known to man in college basketball. And that's going to be there for the rest of the season. Like that's something that when you look at their resume in March on Selection Sunday, you can say, well, yeah, look, they did all this, but they got that win over Kansas. That kind of proves what they are, right? And then that's going to have the trickle-down effect to the rest of that conference. And the Big East needed that, man. Like the Big East badly needed some of that. They needed Providence to beat BYU last. They needed that Villanova win over Cincinnati. And that stuff is going to have an impact when it comes to Selection Sunday.
Absolutely. Reports of the Big East demise greatly exaggerated because what the league has done, this does go to show you can change your season in one night this time of year. You can't necessarily do it in January or February, but on one night during November or December, the first 3 weeks of December, your whole season can change. Let's face it, Creighton had taken losses at home to Nebraska, who we're still unsure of big picture, to San Diego State, who looks to be good, but San Diego State ran them off the floor. Now, they were banged up, but still. And then you lose to Texas A&M. Creighton, it's hard to say that a game against the number one team in the country is a must-win, but for a team that now faces UNLV at home, let's face it, a game that you're supposed to win, and then at Alabama, you really don't want to you don't want to be forced in a corner where you have to win a game in Tuscaloosa for your non-conference to have any sort of a gem in it. So for Creighton, this is a massive win for them. It also does show, John, Greg McDermott, the last 2 times he's had number one teams in his building, has beaten them. UConn last February was the last game that Connecticut lost. And then tonight, McDermott lost 6 games in a row 2 years ago. I never worry about him in terms of being able to make sure he gets to the NCAA tournament. And tonight you saw what Creighton is. But I think the other side of this is to flip it, John. Like Kansas, they don't feel like the number one team in the country. And the reason why is perimeter shooting. They got all these different transfers. They were supposed to be a really good perimeter shooting team, potentially. And John, it hasn't translated for this team. How concerned are you about Kansas's perimeter?
I'm very concerned because, they have good shooters, but not great shooters. And you just never know how that's going to translate out of the portal. I mean, we're going to talk about North Carolina later, but Cade Tyson was the number 2 shooter in the country last year. And he just looks like a whole completely different player. So you never know how it's going to translate. I do worry about Kansas. It looks like a NBA team. They got a nice free agency, a lot of highly paid players. And, they're number one because of who they are and what they are. But from an eye test, they didn't play like a number one team as maybe Auburn did tonight against Duke, where you just felt like, okay, if this game was on a neutral court, I think Auburn would have a chance. I don't think Kansas would have beat Creighton tonight on a neutral court at home anywhere. So they've got to figure it out. And the thing I see a lot of times with these like kind of put together groups, these highly paid put together, is the continuity and the togetherness and the things of that nature. It just kind of lacks a little bit of that on the court. And then when stuff gets tough and you get punched in the mouth, you see separation from these teams. And that's what happened with Kansas tonight.
Yeah, real quick on that too, John. I think that you kind of saw my concern with Kansas is I feel like they're a little bit schemable because of the shooting at the point guard spot and the shooting with KJ Adams and maybe a little bit of the issues that you have with spacing as a result of that. And I think that you kind of saw that with the fact that Creighton, who had played a single possession of zone this entire season, who the last 2 years had played a grand total of 47 possessions of zone, more than 99% of their defensive possessions over the course of the last 2+ seasons have been man-to-man. They started this game out in zone. They played the first 8 minutes in zone and completely took Kansas out of their rhythm. And to me, that is a sign that, one, they don't really respect a lot of the shooters, and they will live and die with those guys taking jump shots instead of being able to get Hunter Dickinson a post touch or be able to get, KJ Adams in those short roll actions off the ball screens where he's just such a killer. They kind of said, look, Zeke Mayo, AJ Storr, Dwan Harris, David Coit, you guys want to beat us? Those guys took a combined 56 shots tonight. Those 4 guys. That was Greg McDermott saying, go ahead. If your guards are going to beat us, we'll live with that. We got Pop Isaacs and Stephen Ashworth. And it's worrisome for me a little bit when it comes. Kansas is awesome. They're a top 5 team in America. I don't think there's any way you can argue that. I do think that this is a flaw that is something that's a little bit exploitable, if that makes sense.
100%. And it kind of goes back. They treated them like the Rondo and the Celtics were good. Like, hey, look, you can shoot 25 times. If you beat us, you beat us.
They did. That's a great comp.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I felt. Creighton was like, look, if you shoot 21 times and beat us, we'll live with that.
True.
Even back to last year when DeJuan Harris had to kind of offensively get involved in the game and he didn't have as many assists as usually have, Kansas usually lost. I want to say there was a stat about his assists and how many, if he scored over a certain amount of points, they lost. So good strategy, good coaching by Coach McDermott. Creighton took one at home, which is what they needed.
Creighton previously 0-6 against number 1 ranked teams at home until last February against UConn. They've won back-to-back games at home over number 1. AJ Storr and Zeke Mayo in this game shot a combined 9 for 26. Let's bring in Jeff Goodman from Cameron Indoor Stadium, where Duke just took down Auburn. We will get to that in a few moments, Jeff. The number 1 team in the country went down tonight. And good to see you, Jeff. Thanks for coming to us from Durham. Creighton beats Kansas.
What a nasty background. This is looking dusty, wooden.
Henson, what are you wearing? Henson, what is that?
Man,
did you just come from a strip club?
I might be going on after. So, just look.
No, Jeff.
Man, let's get this over with so I can hang out, man. Parlay might have hit tonight, man.
Hey, Jeff, as I told Henson before we went on the air, I said, you have this cheetah camouflage on. If you went into the jungle with cheetahs, we wouldn't be able to see who you are with that jacket on, kind of like Carolina's front court.
Ooh.
Yeah, no, wow. You're exactly right. I mean, Carolina's front court is a disaster right now. And it might be the worst front court money could or couldn't buy. But let's get to Creighton. Yes.
Give us your take. What's your take on this? What's your take?
Well, I just saw Creighton. I just saw them 3 times out in Vegas, and to be honest, they were underwhelming. And I had questions. I think Greg McDermott had questions, to be honest, about how good this team could be. But Ryan Kalkbrenner wasn't 100. He didn't play the last game. Pop Isaacs battled the flu, and he's been battling a hip injury still after his offseason hip surgery. And Stephen Ashworth came back earlier than anybody expected from the ankle injury. So when you have all 3 of those guys clicking, and maybe you can get something from Mason Miller, Isaac Trout, one of those other guys, I think then you're dangerous, especially in your own arena. And that's the biggest thing for this Creighton team. In the Big East, they're still going to have a shot against most teams, let's be honest.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, Jeff, it's a mammoth win for the Big East, which had to have 2 strong nights here. And Creighton over Kansas, UConn over Baylor, Providence blew out BYU, and Villanova knocked off Cincinnati. Not talking about Villanova tournament prospects, but just for their metrics, this has been a big 36 hours for a league that had to have it.
Yeah, huge win for the Big East, and a huge win for me tonight to be able to use technology. I mean, let's be honest. For me to figure out technology at Cameron Indoor Stadium and get audio, video all by myself, Henson, it might have been the biggest one of the season.
We discussed that if this didn't work this time, you're cut off from all live recaps. You're just going to have to go home and
There's
watch.
pressure.
So
Listen,
yeah.
I know there was pressure on me, and like Tyrese Proctor, I delivered tonight.
And you know what?
That was so good.
Trevor Valise just texted in our group. That was Jeff's best line of the year. And before I forget and wait till the afters to do it, happy birthday to Trevor Valise, who means so much to us. It's Trevor's birthday. A big happy birthday. It was. We were 6 minutes late. So happy post-birthday, Trevor. Enjoy the first hour of your next year on the planet. All right, Jeff, let's turn to what happened tonight. Let's turn, Jeff. You were in the building. The Duke Blue Devils get their biggest win of the season, and they take down Auburn 84-78. Your instant reaction to what happened at Cameron Indoor is what?
This was a big win for a Duke team, and I think it was for anything, it was kind of for their bravado a little bit, right? Like they come up short against a couple big games against Kansas, against Kentucky. Certainly they went out to Tucson and beat the brace out of Arizona, but Arizona, let's face it, they haven't looked anything like a top 25 team so far. This Auburn team comes in with toughness. That's what they're all about, chipping their shoulder guys. They got maybe the best big man in the country in Janai Broome. They got tough guards. And I thought Duke, after the first few minutes, they looked stunned early. They didn't guard for the first 3 minutes. Miles Kelly's knocking down shots. And I thought their defense got better. And really, to me, Isaiah Evans, we know, kept him in the game in the first half. And then in the second half, I thought it was a collective effort. I really did. Cooper Flagg was phenomenal tonight. Other than shooting the three, Cooper Flagg did everything tonight. And he had help. Proctor made some shots. Con Knipple made a drive at the end of the game that was big. Zion James made a couple key plays. This was just a good team win for Duke when, again, I think they needed to have it against the team that's looked the best so far this season, the Auburn Tigers.
Yeah, the issue with Duke has not been whether or not they're good enough to win these games, right? Like they were a possession away from beating Kentucky on a neutral court. Kentucky's the number 4 team in the country, right? They were a possession away from beating Kansas on a neutral court. Kansas is the number 1 team in the country. We know Duke is good enough to hang in there and be in these games. The question is, can they do it at winning time? And the one thing I think was good for them tonight is that they made their big shots before it was the final possession of the game. Like the Tyrese Proctor 3 that he hit to beat that shot clock buzzer, like that might have been like, I think it's probably too early to call it the game winner, but that was the moment when you're like, all right, this is probably going to end up being Duke's night, right? I thought Zion James was incredible tonight. Like Cooper Flagg made a lot of really big plays. Obviously, Isaiah Evans with the threes that he hit mattered. I thought Malik Brown's defense and his ability to like kind of be switchable and take up more space when you were like playing in those ball screens a little bit more than Malawach did. I thought he was good, but like Zion James, he had a steal where he forced the turnover on Janai Broome in the second half. He had the dunk in the and one. It was his defense that he played. Like he brings a different level of length and toughness and physicality than Caleb Foster does. And I just think that he made so many big plays for that team. Duke is going to win this year because of their defense, Henson. Like this is a team that is going to be built around, you're not going to be able to score on us. This is not going to be easy. Auburn is huge on the wings, huge everywhere. And they looked kind of small going up against Duke and Cameron tonight. Like that was a really impressive win for me for Duke.
Yeah, and Duke, I think, would have the second tallest team average team in the country. So, they've got pro size. Defensively, they're going to be tough to deal with. And even Proctor developing into like a dead-eye three-point shooter, I think, is a big deal, man. That really helps them, especially with Flagg kind of taking the reins and being a creator and a playmaker, having kind of that gravitational pull to help him have space, along with their defense. I mean, Cooper Flagg is as good, if not better than advertised. He's doing it all. Duke playing those early games and against those tough teams. We discussed it, man. It's only going to bode well for them. And tonight, it showed what happens when you go out there in early in the conference play or before conference play, and you play these number 1 teams, and you go to these neutral courts and these harsh environments. They handled Auburn. They took the punch. They fought back, and Duke is going to be a force to be reckoned with, especially in this weaker ACC this year, man. They're gonna.
Hey, Henson,
They're gonna. What's up?
I got a question for you about Duke's offense. Okay, like a
Okay.
lot of it comes down to just kind of isolation stuff at the end of games, and to me that works when you have, it works for, like, let's just say the Boston Celtics, right? When you have Tatum and Jaylen Brown, does it work for this version of Duke?
Well,
Let's put that on hold. Let's put that on hold because we have a special guest. Jeff Goodman has a man. Duke hit 9 threes tonight, Jeff. The man sitting to the right of you hit 6 of them.
All right, Isaiah, you're here on After Dark in a performance that I'm not sure you even knew you were going to pull off in the first half. You didn't play at all in the games against Kansas, Kentucky, and Arizona. Didn't get in there. Tonight you get in there and you make your presence felt. 6 threes, 18 points in the first half. You got all the Cameron crazies going nuts. What was it like?
It was amazing. It was amazing, just being able to make the most out of my opportunity tonight, show the world what I can do, show my coaches what I can do, just gain confidence in my teammates.
How did you stay ready for this moment? Because, again, you didn't get a lot of time early, especially in these big games. Some of the bye games, last game you played well. How do you stay mentally ready for a moment like this?
You just do it. You just, at the end of the day, I came here for a difficult time. I came here to put myself in an uncomfortable position to get better and to learn. But most of all, I'm always stay ready because I'm a basketball player. That's my job. I feel like if I'm ever not ready, that's a problem. And, tonight it just paid off.
How big was this win, Isaiah? Because, again, you came up short. Arizona, you won. Huge win. But you came up short against 2 teams that you probably thought you had a chance to win at the end. How big was closing this one out against a tough Auburn team?
Just prove that we can win. We don't get too much into social media things, but of course, it's inevitable. You're going to hear things. People don't think we can finish games against good teams. It just shows that we can, and it's just a learning process. And then, wins like this builds confidence for a team like us, even though we know how good we are. Getting wins like this builds confidence for next games because, this is not the only game that we're going to be in a situation like this.
What's it like playing with Cooper Flag? I mean, obviously he gets a lot of attention, and I don't think he really wants the attention. I really don't. I mean, it doesn't seem like it, and you can't tell watching him whether you guys are up 20, down 20. With you, I could tell you were getting going. You get excited. Cooper doesn't show much emotion, does he?
No, I mean, it's a lot on his shoulders at the end of the day. He has to stay laser focused. That's his game. I'm a guy, I'm going to get rowdy. I'm going to get the crowd into it. I'm going to hype myself up. He's a guy like, hey, he's straight line. Get a stop, get a bucket, and do it over again. You know what I'm saying? So I love playing with him. I love, seeing him do his thing, attacking him, paint hard. It's just great seeing it.
How are you going to celebrate? Last question tonight. You gonna go to sleep? Are you gonna be able to sleep tonight? I mean, my guess is it's gonna be tough falling asleep after a first half performance like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what I'm gonna do. We're gonna figure that out after this interview.
All right, listen, congrats, man. That was a hell of a performance. Isaiah Evans, 18 first half points, and listen, without him, they're not even in the game at halftime, guys.
No, and he was fantastic in this game. Isaiah, thank you for the time. Rob, what did Isaiah Evans mean for Duke, and how big is that for Duke? Because we've been talking about perimeter shooting for this team. Khan Knipple wasn't supplying it tonight. They needed somebody to do it, and Evans did it with 6. 6 of the team's 9 triples came from a guy who, as Jeff just said, wasn't in any of Duke's marquee games.
Yeah, and I saw people were saying like, oh, this is fluky. Oh, this is something you can't rely on. Oh, it's this. Oh, it's that. I said, yes, that's exactly the point. Like the guys on the bench are the guys where when you get performances like this is what can change the games, right? When you have you need players on the bench that can come in and sometimes you're going to get great performances out of them and sometimes maybe not. If you got a performance like this out of Isaiah Evans every single time he stepped on the floor, like he wouldn't be sitting on the bench. But it's the fact that you have a dude that is dangerous enough where when he gets going, he can completely change a game. Like Duke was struggling a little bit. They were in the mud offensively. They bring this dude in, and all of a sudden they go into halftime with a 7-point lead and they have control of this game. That's what you need on your bench. You need game changers on your bench. And Isaiah Evans proved that he was a game changer. Credit to him, man. You don't have to get ready if you stay ready. The shooter's got to stay ready.
So this is a game where Duke takes it, and as you said, Rob, I think Proctor hit the biggest shot of the season to date for Duke when he hit that three. As for Auburn, like before we get back to Henson, talk about Duke's offense. Jeff, you were there in person. Even though Auburn lost the game, Janai Broome and Tahai Pettiford and Baker Mazzara, it's a 6-point defeat. But Auburn just never stops. You spent the day with them. You were in the film room this morning. What did you learn about this group spending the whole day with them?
Well, that they're chipping their shoulder guys, right? That they only have one guy that was really ranked high. A lot of these kids are we forget, Janai Broome came from Morehead State, and he's developing still into a leader. That is not natural for him. You look at some of the other guys on the team. Pettiford's the one guy, and I was actually surprised, and I'd like to ask Bruce Pearl this, why Pettiford wasn't in at the end of the game. Because he was giving you offense. He had 4 fouls. I understand that defensively he was going to hurt you a little bit. But, man, he is electric, and he can go get you one whenever he wants. And how loose this team was, but how focused. And Baker Mazzara, if he can keep his emotions in check, he's super talented. Like he is that forward that just can step out, make plays. He's fearless. He looked like, again, a guy that just was born to play at Cameron. I've seen a lot of players come through here. Henson, you have too. Some guys wilt under the pressure. Baker Mazzara rose to the pressure of playing here.
I agree.
Rob, go ahead,
I agree. I didn't know if that was rhetorical. Or I don't know, it's like an ending statement. But no, Baker Mazzara, if he can stay focused and not as a young kid say crash out, then he helps this team. Him going into the scrum for no reason, the offensive foul, even dating back to last year where he got kicked out of the game. They need him to be at their best, and he needs to keep his emotions in check for his team to be the best team possible. So hopefully he understands that and continues that.
Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, Van.
I want to bring up what you just sent us because we have 4 minutes to talk about him, and you have to talk about him because you can't talk college basketball without talking about this player. Tonight, Cooper Flagg had 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, and not a single turnover. Greg Harvey on X, between the numbers, says no other player, men's or women's, has had such a stat line or better against an AP top 25 opponent in the last 25 seasons. Meaning, Rob, what we watched tonight was something that nobody has done in college basketball in a quarter century in a game of this type of significance. Cooper Flagg, we're watching him every single game, Rob. What stands out to you the most? We'll go Rob, Jeff, and John on this one.
What stands out the most is that you gotta have a lot of intestinal fortitude to make your twiddle handle be between the numbs, which that's just my ears. And two,
you just had to do something. You just here, isn't it a dream?
Funny, man.
Now what's going on now? Oh, okay, we're gonna have okay. Jeff, you know what? Forget I even said anything. This is very kind of Bruce Pearl join us. Jeff, take it away.
All right, Bruce, you can't hear them. They can't hear you. So it's just you and I for this one. Got off to a great start, hung in there, just could never get back over the hump. What was it in the second half that you guys just weren't able to do to get over that hump?
We'll start with the first half, and that is we got off to a great start. We were playing great defense. They couldn't score against our half-court defense when we were fresh and furious. We got some great looks down the other end, and obviously, showed that we weren't intimidated by being in a great environment. We came with a great preparation. We were ready to play. They're really good. They're really talented. Jon Scheyer doesn't get enough credit for the job he does. They run really good stuff that's hard to guard, and they got us in some mismatches. They find ways to get, Cooper in against your guards, and we did not do a very good job of stripping and ripping him. Their shooters are hard to come off of. They're hard to come off. Cooper's their best breakdown guy. He's their best playmaker.
You said that to your team this morning.
Yeah, and he was able to get in there and makes it 4 assists and no turnovers. I mean, Duke is really, really good. I mean, whether the best team in the country or not, they very well could be. They've got the combination of talent, unbelievable length. They play with a purpose. But
Proctor and Proctor, the shot from the top was a killer for you,
no doubt. And then Janai had one go in and out late. That 3 ball cuts it to 2, and we never was able to scare them in the second half to maybe see if our experience could take over.
Do you feel like, okay, if I'm saying to you now, over the first month of the season now, if you would take this, I know, again, you're pissed off right now that you didn't get a win because you were right there at Duke. And by the way, your first ever coaching appearance in Cameron. Yep. But you got to feel good about where this team has been for the first month of the season.
Yep. And look, this is a lot of people are going to come in and get run out, right? They're going to win this league by several games. So I'm pleased with the way we competed, the way we kind of hung in there. You have to have special, from more than just a couple guys. Todd was pretty special tonight offensively. Not great on the defensive end.
My question to you, I'm going to ask you.
Yeah.
Why was he on the bench at the end of the game with 4 fouls?
Just because of his defense.
Yeah.
He understood that, and he understood that wasn't a punishment. That was just, we got to get
some
stops.
Offensively, he was, I know you needed stops, and then you also needed a guy who could break. Right. It was hard.
Yeah. But he gets it. And he wasn't, our guards got out rebounded, and our guards just got to do a better job defensively. Duke scored, what did they score? They scored 84 points and shot, 50%. They're going to win every time.
After the first few minutes, I thought the game flipped. Like, I thought you had them early thinking about themselves, and then they were able to make a couple shots, get back in the game quickly, and then they got their confidence back.
Yeah, and the transition was a huge thing. We didn't do a good job on the offensive end. They came down, they run. Their ability to block shots, and we took that ball into traffic several times and got bodies on the floor, and then it's a layup or a 3 at the other end. And so we definitely, didn't take care of them. I think our offense really hurt our defense.
Last one, I'll let you go, and I appreciate all the time today.
To have you here and have access, so you got a chance. Jeff got a chance to, be in our locker room and hear the preparation and hear the things we talked about, which I think for an analyst is really good. Because then you see the game unfold and you realize we don't have a lot of control of a lot of things that go on.
No,
out
you
there.
say a lot of things that unfortunately you can't control once the ball goes up. You try, right? You tell them to force guys left.
Yeah. Auburn's
all game.
Auburn's going to do a better job defensively. You cannot we turn people over on average 14, 15 times a game.
It's too early. They had like 2 turnovers through the first 25, 28 minutes. All right, last one, and I'll let you run. Cooper Flagg, now you've seen him in person.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on him now? Because other than not shooting the 3, I thought he did everything well today.
He affects winning on both ends of the floor. His motor runs. He's a tough matchup. He's a really, really good player. 4 assists and no turnovers. There's some things that we might have done differently, but he's such a good passer of the ball. Like when we have Chad Baker and you put the ball in his hands, he can see over stuff, and we probably should have trapped him a little bit. He does get a pretty good whistle in here now. No, and one of the things I talk about is like, look, he's not in the NBA yet.
Right.
He's not in the NBA yet. And so we got good players too. And I thought we had a lot of guys that should have picked up a lot of fouls. He gets them because he's a great player. But I'm sure coaches in the ACC will be pulling their hair out, going, "Hey, we got good players too."
No, you played. Listen, I thought you played well enough to be in the game at the end of Cameron against a really good, talented Duke team.
And a really well-coached team.
You guys have proven a lot. You guys have proven a lot over the first month of the season. Kansas lost tonight at Creighton. They lost to Creighton. So there's no dominant team. I know we've said, UConn was dominant last year.
This could be a dominant team. I think this team is going to dominate the ACC.
Somebody screen grab that, right? I'm about to take a picture of that.
Here's my thing on this. Here's my thing on that. It was the last question.
We are more than just a football conference or a baseball conference.
Get going so you can make your charter.
Hey, it just means more in the SEC, guys.
Yes, it does, Bruce. Yes, it does.
There he is.
Bruce Pearl. That is network history. That's the first time, and that shot sums it up right there. That is the first time we have ever had a losing coach on our network, and I'm going to give all the credit in the world to Bruce Pearl for doing that interview. Jeff is going to go find like another angle of Cameron Indoor Stadium to show us after these messages. We're going to take a break. Coming up, there was a ranked versus ranked top 10 showdown tonight in Ames. Little Hilton Magic, or did Cam Jones have something to say about it? We'll talk about Marquette and Iowa State next.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM for the season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using the bonus code.
What happened at the end?
Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you'll receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets. Go download the BetMGM app and use the code FIELD today. Now that college basketball season is back in full swing, I need to remind you guys about our partners over at Autograph, where the real college hoops fans reside. The Autograph app curates all of the best content for every sports fan and every sports fan's favorite team. Podcasts, blogs, analysis. It's all there without the nonsense from the talking heads that don't actually watch the games. And there's a bonus. Consuming content on the Autograph app earns you coins that can be redeemed for rewards for things like no-fee tickets or signed jerseys from your favorite players. There are a couple new features in the app that I need to let you guys know about as well. Autograph Replay gives you a quick-hitting summary of the previous day's news so you can keep track of all the important things going on with your favorite teams. And Autograph Rooms allows you to chat in real time with the true voices of fandom within your team's community. So go to the link in the description or scan that QR code on your screen and download the Autograph app.
Welcome back to After Dark. Goodman is back. Jeff, you're even on the night.
I'm even Steven right now. So I feel good. I'm not frozen, at least not right now, but I can't promise anything for the rest of the show.
I'll tell you what, though, Jeff, it says a lot.
Who's coming on the show next? Is like Cooper Flagg going to just bomb our show at some point? Who we got coming on? Is Tyrese Proctor around here? Who else can you get, Jeff? You want to get one of those kids that was dancing in the background of your first shot? Are we going to get one of them on the show next?
Oh, I saw them. Yeah, they were getting after it.
Yeah,
okay,
they were loving it.
We're not going to talk to children on the show. We're not going to do that. We have enough children already on the show. We don't need to talk to more of them. You know what, though? I do want to say this before I get to the rest of the games because there's so many great games, Jeff. That was network history. I have never seen a coach who lost a game on our network. That's a lot of credit to Bruce Pearl. That's a lot of credit to him.
No question. No. Listen, again, Bruce, what he's done at Auburn, we forget. Like, I was there when he took the job at Auburn. We were sitting in the radio building at ESPN, and he told me he was taking the Auburn job, and I looked at him. I'm like, are you effing kidding me? Like, why would you take this job? And we forget what he's built this program into, where it's kind of like a shock that they didn't go in and beat Duke tonight in a way, because they were the number 2 team in the country. And again, I don't think, watching them tonight, I would say this. When Pettiford is at his best, I think maybe they are the number 2 team in the country. I think he's got to be at his best for them to be that. And, he's going to be up and down this year. He was even up and down throughout this game. But, man, is he electric. Bruce loves small guards, and he delivered. I would have liked to have seen him on the court at the end, because I think, again, what he gave up defensively, I just think their offense got stagnant at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right, let's turn the corner here. We had a top 10 showdown in college basketball tonight, and it was between number 6 Iowa State and number 5 Marquette. This game is tied at 61 with 9 minutes to go. Iowa State proceeds to hold Marquette to 9 points in the final 9 minutes, and the Cyclones come out an 81-70 winner. Keyshawn Gilbert, Rob Dauster, has scored at least 23 points in 4 of his last 5 games. Iowa State put Marquette in the blender down the stretch. Cam Jones didn't have enough help. And Gilbert and the Cyclones are a winner. What did you learn about Iowa State and Marquette in this game tonight?
I don't know so much if I learned that much, but it's more like they kind of prove that, okay, we're here, right? Okay, we are Iowa State. Okay, we are a team that is going to be in the mix. We're going to be a threat in the Big 12 title race. We're going to be a team that you want to pay attention to, because I do think that the knock on them last year was they could beat you up physically. They could guard you. They're so tough. They were a little bit overranked because they were so tough and so physical. They beat all of these like small teams by 48 points or whatever it was. Like, they ruined the net. I mean, we all heard T.O.'s rant plenty of times last year, right? But I think going out and doing this to a Marquette team that we've seen beat Purdue by 20, right? That we've seen go into Maryland and beat Maryland, a place that Ohio State lost by 687 points tonight. To be able to do that to this Marquette team, where if it wasn't for like was Cam Jones had like a personal 10-0 run in the second half. If he doesn't have that run in the second half, like this isn't even a game down the stretch. Like, I think there was one moment in the second half where Marquette really put some game pressure on Iowa State, and they immediately responded with their own 9-0 run. But to me, the difference is Keyshawn Gilbert is a game changer, man. Like, that dude, he's not just, there's no fluff with his numbers. Like, he is a bucket. Curtis Jones is a bucket. They got a single point. They have an All-American on their team, their point guard, Tamin Lipsey. He had a single point tonight, and it didn't matter. They pretty much dominated a top 5 team from tip to final buzzer, and it's really, really impressive. Now, the context is nobody goes into Hilton and wins, but hey, look, you know what? Home court is home court. They took advantage of it. Credit to them.
It's well said, because Iowa State didn't lose a single home game last year. They went 18-0 at home and haven't done that yet this season. They win this game by 11, Henson, and Rob just said it. You know, I'm going to get to Jeff on this after you, John, but when watching Iowa State last year, you still felt like offensively they were lacking that next level. Well, Keyshawn Gilbert has taken that leap with 23 in 4 of his last 5 games. And Jeff, I remember the moment that Iowa State brought in Joshua Jefferson. You said that's going to be a really good ad for them. And tonight, he had 15 points. He had 12 rebounds. Henson, what do you see with this Cyclones team? Are they a national title caliber team in your mind, John?
100%. They're kind of my dark horse pick preseason to get to the Final Four, and they're actually looking better than I probably ever expected them to look. I think Keyshawn Gilbert adds that down the stretch, and we need to get a bucket, or vice versa. If we need to put a team away, they've got a guy. So when you play defense like that, holding them to 9 points in the last, 9 minutes or something like that, and then you have a guy like Keyshawn Gilbert who can get to the rack, create, and they're bigs. Also, they finish, they're physical, they're tough. They're a little bit more offensive-minded than last year's guy. So I love how Iowa State looks. They are going to be really tough down the stretch, playing that defensive kind of grinded out game. And then don't let Lipsey or Gilbert start finding themselves or get in their bag and start hitting you with the 1-2. It's gonna be tough for you to beat them consistently, especially in conference play.
Goodman, your take.
Yeah, when I talked to TJ before the season, in the offseason, he said he knew he needed to add a little more offensive firepower. And Jefferson was a guy, but you look at what they've done so far. I mean, they've scored 81 against Auburn in a game they should have won. Let's face it. I mean, they pissed that one away. Tonight they score 81, I think, against Dayton. Didn't they have almost 90? So their offense clearly is better. They're not just reliant on their defense anymore to grind out games. They've got a bunch of weapons, and the addition of Jefferson makes it easier for a guy like Gilbert. You know, like, because now, again, I think teams were keyed in more on Gilbert last year because he was one of really, I mean, who else could make plays off the bounce? They really didn't have a lot else. So Jefferson gives them another option of somebody that can put the ball in the hands and he can go make a play.
Rob, I'm going to ask you this question. Who's the best team in the Big 12?
I would probably still lean towards Kansas being the favorite to win it just because of the way that it works at Fog Allen Fieldhouse, and I trust Bill Self. If you're asking me who I would want to bet on to make the deepest run in the tournament, that's tough. That is tough. I kind of like what I saw. I feel like it's too reactionary to say this, but I'm just going to say it anyway. Like I like what I saw out of Iowa State tonight. And the reason why I say I like what I saw out of Iowa State tonight is that the defense is going to be there. And I think that I trust Keyshawn Gilbert, Tamin Lipsey, Curtis Jones, that backcourt a little bit more than what we get out of Houston's backcourt. Like we saw with Houston down the stretch in some of those games in the players era, where when it gets to kind of nut cutting time a little bit, right? Like, do you trust guys? Do you have guys that can go out there and create easy shots for you? And I kind of think Iowa State has a little bit of an advantage there, but I don't feel confident about anything that I just said. So I feel like I'm very reactionary in this moment.
Jeff, are you more bullish? Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. Like watching Houston in person a couple times, I'm a little bit concerned. I really am. I just Jamal Shedd was so important to everything they did. And Milo Suzan's
Jamal Shedd was Tamin Lipsey, Goodman. Jamal Shedd was Tamin Lipsey.
Better offensively to me. And he made everybody else better. Like that's the thing. Now I think those bigs are a little bit exposed for not being skilled bigs. And they're just tough, rugged, play hard. And Kelvin said it to me the other day. He said, like, I might have to go with Terrence Arsenal at the 4. I might have to be able to get a guy that can make some plays offensively, because right now it just doesn't seem to be working. To me, again, you got to be able to score. And right now they just can't manufacture much.
Well, I guess the final thing before we get to our next game is, Henson, you got a night where Kansas falls, a night where Auburn falls, a night where Iowa State beats Marquette. That's not all that surprising, but still 3 of the top 5 fall. Like, John Henson, if you could bet on any one team right now nationally, and maybe it's one of the teams that still lost tonight, who would you bet on, John, to win it all? Right now. I know it's December, but if you put the future down tomorrow morning, like some random people in America will, what's Henson's best pick right now nationally?
Give me one team on a neutral court. I'm going to Auburn Tigers. I don't think the loss. I don't think the loss tonight at Duke. Yes, Duke was a better team tonight, but give me that game in the jungle, or give me that game in Kansas City in a regional final, and I think it's a different outcome. Auburn, they played decently well considering the circumstances. There's going to be a letdown. They just won Maui. They've been running through teams. So if I had to take a bet right now, especially for the value at where they're at right now, I'm going to go Auburn Tigers.
Yeah. How about this, Fanta? This is crazy. I just looked it up on BetMGM. Duke is currently the favorite to win the national title. They're 8-1. Auburn's 9-1. That's wild to me. I was going to say Duke because I thought that they'd be like ranked like 5th or 6th somewhere in here, but they're 8-1 right now. I don't even know. How about Tennessee, man? Tennessee's going to be the number 1 team in the country on Monday, right? Like how I feel like we never talk about Tennessee. We never do.
Do we have coming, Jeff? Do we have a guest coming? This Jeff has moved to his right. It tells me something's happening.
We just might.
It tells me something's happening. It's not Kenny Rogers behind you there.
It is
let's
not.
see here. Who is it? Who is it? Guy in the backpack.
Not
I think it might be. He's not quite here yet.
Not quite here yet. Nobody here yet. What we're just the number 1 team.
Tennessee.
I will
Tennessee.
say this. I'm not ready yet. I'm not ready for Tennessee. I will still say, here's what I'll still say. With Rylan Griffin, and not that he's like the huge piece, but I think he gives Kansas another shooter that they didn't have tonight. I'm going to put my money with the Jayhawks here today. I just think they'll figure it out. And again, they do have the best coach in the country, maybe including Rick Pitino in Bill Self.
I'll tell you what, though. Tonight.
Way to jump out on a limb there, Jeff. Woo.
I'm just saying, but I picked him preseason. I'm not changing it. That's all I'm saying.
No,
it's like,
good
I'm
level
not
of
changing
commitment
it
from
yet.
you. We're just not
well,
convinced.
I mean,
Tonight,
again.
That's a big ass.
By the
ladder.
way, hey,
what are they doing with that ladder?
I'm going to climb that
That's
thing.
a
I'm going to climb that
humongous
thing when we're done.
Can
Is
you
that
shoot
Kay's
from there
ladder? Is that
break?
Is that Kay's ladder? Is that Krzyzewski's ladder?
It's not Kay's ladder. It is not Kay's ladder.
What is happening?
I forget what I was even going to say.
Why don't we take a quick break?
We're not going to break. We're not going to go to
Go
break.
to break. We're blowing through
He
the
may
break.
be coming soon. We can't.
I personally want to hear Rob in a
can't do
BetMGM spot, anyways.
Because Dagan, you can't do it.
Nobody wants to hear Rob at another BetMGM spot. That's Henson. Henson overrules everybody. All right, he overrules.
So
everybody.
no, here's the thing though. Rob just brought it up. Like Rob, we had a fan pay to submit this. When's Tennessee going to lose? You know, you look at their schedule here; they're set up for more. I mean, they're in a really good spot, Rob Dauster.
Yeah, that trip to Illinois on December 14th, I think, is going to be tough. That is going to be a very loud building. That is a difficult place to play. And Illinois has a couple of really talented guards that they can put in ball screens and allow to create. But they're also young, right? Those Illinois players are young. They're freshmen. Like Yakashonis is a freshman, right? So we'll see. That's going to be a tough matchup with an old, physical, tough Tennessee team. So
I'm taking the risk. We're going to break after this. Jeff with a special guest.
Now that the college basketball season is in full swing, you need to make sure that you have access to the best betting tool on the market, the Rhythm app. Spelled RITHMM, is a data-backed app that uses AI and analytics to identify inefficiencies in betting lines and the player prop market that will allow you, the user, to profit. You can create customized, analytics-driven betting models tailored to your personal preferences as a bettor. Users have access to up-to-the-second against-the-spread data. And if you're like me and you understand pictures better than numbers on a screen, Rhythm's internal trend analysis provides you with the kind of graphs that will allow you to evaluate past results and project future performance in a visual way. Every Division I college basketball team is included in Rhythm's metrics. Free subscribers to the Field of 68 Daily will get 25% off for a Rhythm subscription. Use the QR code on the screen to sign up or download at the link in the description.
All right, welcome back. Field of 68 After Dark. I'm now joined by the most overrated pickleball player in the entire coaching industry, Jon Scheyer. How are you?
If I knew I had to sit next to you to do this interview, I wouldn't have come out here.
Oh, come on. Come on. Big win. Big win for you guys. Obviously, you come up short against Kansas and Kentucky in close games. To be able to win this one the way you did at the end with, I thought, a really good team effort. It wasn't all on Cooper tonight, which I think a lot of people put it all on Cooper in the past. Tyrese made some plays. Sion made a play. Khan made a great drive at the end. Obviously, Cooper did his thing as well. How important was it to get everybody involved in this one?
Well, we've talked about everybody stepping up and, really, you mentioned a few of those plays. Obviously, what Isaiah did, in that first half, just sparked, the whole place. But just tough plays, man. Rebounds, to give them 0 fast break points is incredible. To only have 4 turnovers is big time. And then, Cooper, we already put a big load on him. He's 22, 11, and 4. He's a 17-year-old. He's competing. He's on the boards. He's doing everything. But to have those other guys step up, and I think it's a credit to being in those moments in those other games of learning what we need to do and how I have to help them, but also for our guys just to be in those moments.
What the hell took you so long to play Isaiah Evans?
No, well, you know what? This whole thing, the whole
I'm
thing
kidding.
the whole thing is it's a process, And, Isaiah, he's had a great attitude every day in practice. He's worked. And to come out in this moment, it's just proud of him for what he's done.
It helps, too, to put him in that situation in a big game at home, right, for a freshman like that, doesn't it?
I mean, yeah, it's more so just what he's done in practice, though. Like, I think if it was on the road, it would have been the same thing. He played last game in the same way. Getting in, we put him in right away last game against Seattle because he had just continued to work at it. And it's hard when you play your first 6 games are Kentucky, Kansas, and Arizona, at Arizona. And so, you're doing everything you can to win. You also want to develop your young players and who they're going to grow into. So, we've mentioned Grayson Allen, who didn't play as much. We've mentioned A.J. Griffin. But Isaiah's attitude, it's been the right balance of having an edge to him, wanting to play, but then having the humility, just attacking every day in practice.
I saw you after both losses, Kansas and Kentucky. You were upset, but you weren't like questioning this team at all. In fact, it was the opposite to me. You're like, I totally believe in this team, and you have from day one, and I don't think it's changed at all. Why?
Well, I've known from the beginning, you learn the character of a team and the competitiveness. The way we've competed in every game has been high level, and so you have that baseline. I think we have really good ability. This team has been connected, from day one. And so competitiveness and connected, those two things is a recipe for having, a great season. Now we have to win games. And obviously beating Auburn is, it's a really good game and good accomplishment. But my belief never wavered. I mean, we're 2 possessions away from one possession each game from winning. And again, still lost. You got to finish it off. But for me, there's been no doubt.
Are you worried about the league a little bit? I mean, you guys went 2-14 here in the ACC. I mean, the SEC is terrific this year. But how concerned are you about the league? And we know in November and December is generally when you form your league resume.
Well, it's been concerning what's happened the last couple of years, but I've been committed from day one of this season. Whatever happens with everybody else happens. And end of the day, we're in position to take care of everything that we want to accomplish. We can still do that. And so, again, would you like the league to have a better record? Of course you would. But end of the day, I haven't watched other games. I haven't paid attention. I've just focused on us, and I'm not going to change that because you can't control it at the end of the day.
Are we playing pickleball? Like, no, you're going to duck me tomorrow. I brought my pickleball. I actually didn't, but we can. You're not playing.
We got our first ACC game on Sunday.
So you're really not going to get up tomorrow morning. You're going to duck me just like Robbie Hummel has done.
Well, Robbie's smart for doing that. Robbie's smart.
All right. Good seeing you, man.
Appreciate
Hell of a win.
Thanks a lot.
All right. There you have it. Duke head coach Jon Scheyer joining us on After Dark. And that completes the trifecta, boys.
Amazing job by you down there.
I apologize.
Amazing job by you. And Jeff, no, great job. Hell of a job down there. Thanks for coming to us from Cameron Indoor Stadium. Technology working very nicely. You really are in midseason form. And now, Jeff, for your absolute favorite part of the entire program.
Oh no.
Let's go to Chapel Hill, where tonight Alabama beat North Carolina 94-79. North Carolina is 4-4. They are allowing 81 points per game. On this night, the Tar Heels, R.J. Davis scores 18 points. It took him 24 shots to get there. Seth Trimble goes 4 for 13. Elliot Cadeau did not make a field goal attempt. He made 4, but he did not make a shot. John Henson, what is going on with North Carolina? What is wrong?
Obviously I think the perimeter is solid. Defensively, we need to play better, but I just think it's just the size up front. North Carolina historically has been known for extra possessions, offensive reboundings, ending possessions on one shot, and so on and so forth. So, if you think back, I mean, it's been over 20 years since they haven't had like some type of All-American presence in the middle. I mean, you could start with Sean Maid, and you go to T. Hands, and you go to Big Z, then you go to Armando. So, and go back even further, right? B. Haywood. So, I'm not used to seeing such a thin front line and from a rebound perspective, but I think that's just the issue, man. Cade Tyson, he hasn't kind of panned out as a second best 3-point shooter in the country last year. He looks kind of out of place, man. Looks kind of a little bit, above his league and the physicality and things of that nature. So it's going to be a struggle for North Carolina to win games. Fortunate for them, they are in the ACC, so they should be able to figure it out on the court in live action. But I knew it was going to be tough, man. Alabama's frontline size and athleticism and versatility it's just like the worst matchup for Carolina, who struggles. And then with the guard play, Sears comes in and, imposes his will, against RJ Davis. And there's a lot being put on RJ Davis as well. So it's going to be a tough year for Carolina, man. And they've got a gang rebound. They've got to figure it out.
Henson.
What's that?
Henson, are they good? Are they a tournament team? Is North Carolina a lock NCAA tournament team?
I believe so. By the way that they will handle the ACC schedule, they will get into the tournament.
It's North Carolina, guys. It's North Carolina. Like at the end of the day, look, I hear what you're saying. Those concerns are completely valid, right? But at the end of the day, when you get into that room with the selection committee, there are 10 human beings that are going to sit here and look at these sheets, right? There's going to be people making these decisions. And you can't tell me that the name North Carolina is not going to resonate when you have people in there we're looking at it with the college football playoff now, right? Like, look at where Alabama is. Look where Ole Miss is. Why you don't think that has anything to do with the fact that it's human beings making a decision, looking at the name Alabama versus the name Ole Miss? And I will just say this, right? North Carolina has struggled so far this season. They lost by 3 at Kansas, right? They lost to Auburn on a neutral court. They lost to Michigan State in overtime. Michigan State blew out Minnesota. Maybe Tom Izzo's figured it out. That's a top 30 team right now on the metrics. They lost to Alabama at home. Alabama was preseason top 2, regardless of where you looked. I had them preseason top 1. Right now, they're top 10 in the metrics. So it's not like they're sitting here losing to the Elons or the Americans or the Hawaiis of the world. They're getting beat by really good teams. Now, you got Georgia Tech at home coming up. Then you get LaSalle at home. Those are both very winnable games. Then you get Florida on a neutral, and you get UCLA on a neutral. If you come out of that and you lose like 3 of the next 4, then we can have a conversation about how worried we should be. But if they go out and smack Georgia Tech like they should, and they beat LaSalle like they should, and they find a way to win one of Florida or UCLA, which is very possible and very doable with this group, then I wouldn't be that worried. Like, we know this team's going to be up and down. There's no the front court issues have been there, right? Like, you just got to deal with it now. Like, we can't sit here and say like they should have gotten a big out of the portal. Yes, we knew that at the time. We knew when they didn't get Cliff Amore out of the portal, like that was going to be a problem for them. It is what it is.
Wait a minute, hold on a second, though. Hold on a second. I'm gonna push back on that for a second. We know they have front court issues. They got to deal with it. It's a whole unit. It's kind of an important thing to have for North Carolina. The standard here shouldn't be to make the tournament. The standard should be to make deep runs in March. This team is not a team that's worthy of making a deep run in March. Their front court for the legacy and tradition of North Carolina bigs. And we've got a former North Carolina star on this very show.
Look at Henson.
For the legacy
I'm going to tell you this
of the North Carolina Tar Heels, this front court's an embarrassment.
The reason why I went to North Carolina, I'll never forget it. Coach Williams comes to my house. He says, "See all these names on the list?" I mean, it was like 30 names, even maybe more. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "What does that mean?" What does that mean? I was like, "I don't know." He said, "Every single one of these guys that's ever played for me as a big man has played professionally." And that was the hook, right? So you're just not used to seeing that, man. You're just not. So I'm not used to it. It's frustrating. But I have no doubt that Hubert will retool. I don't know what the NIL war chest looks like. I'm not involved in the program. You know what I'm saying? But
it's Carolina.
Why not? Wait. Why?
Yeah, but
why are you not involved in the NIL?
Here's the thing about Carolina.
Your gambling winnings could get another big man.
Listen, I just hit a parlay, by the way. Just watching Oregon. Shout out to them covering. But
was it on North Carolina front court points under?
No, I had them 5.5, and they came back, and I'm, I'll show you guys after. It's a nice one too. But yeah, so that's got to be first priority in the portal. That's got to be first priority. I don't care what you say, how you want to cut it. They have the guard play with Powell, and like they have those. Like next year's they're gonna be just fine, but they have to go get a big man. I don't know who they need to call: Vince, Jordan, Antoine. I don't know if they, whoever they got to call.
All of them.
I think here's the issue in North Carolina too. We have such kind of the old school old timers. They don't understand the NIL. The boost. They just don't get it. They don't understand. And also, if you let them have too much influence, then they're going to influence playing time and who's playing, and then the coaches have to do that. So actually, I think they should hire a GM. You should call me, but that's North Carolina will be fine. So.
Henson, they call you
the GM job.
Hey, man, look, I can recruit, man. I'm telling you, I'll put the sports book down and I'll start getting to work.
Jeff.
I don't believe that for a second. Hold on, I don't believe that for a second. No, come on, man. You're gonna stop betting on sports? No chance. Come on.
Yeah, 100%. It is not that hard. Addictive personality is not in my DNA strain. I'm fine.
Okay, wait. Back to serious talk.
Okay.
Jeff,
My bad.
like I had to push back there. And Rob, I love you. You know that. But like Jeff, this is North Carolina. They are 4-4. Like if we were talking about another team, we'd be deeply concerned. How concerned are you? What's going on?
Well, because, Rob used one side of the argument, and it was that they've lost 4 games to 4 good teams. I'll flip it and say 3 of their 4 wins have come against bye games, and Dayton being the other one, which we don't know if Dayton is an NCAA tournament team.
They were down 21 in that game, by the way.
Right. So you can kind of use both sides of the coin with this Carolina team. All I'll say is there's so much pressure on RJ Davis. Teams are going to dare Elliot Cadeau to shoot the ball, even though Hubert, and I wonder if he did this with us in ACC Media Day, so that teams watching, would actually think Elliot Cadeau is a completely different player and a different shooter. I'm not sure he is. I think he's better, improved. But again, it's all on RJ right now. And Seth Trimble's gotten better. But ultimately, I think they're going to be easy for teams to scout, especially in the league.
Yeah, and the other problem is they can't get stops against anyone. They gave up 92 to Kansas. They gave up 85 to Auburn. 94 to Michigan State. 94 losing Armando was like the guy that cleaned up defensive rebounds was a problem. Losing Cormac Ryan, who was a really good defender, was a problem. Harrison Ingram did all of the little things that you need to do defensively and off. Like that was a problem. And then you didn't replace the front court guy, and you brought in a couple of freshmen to kind of play. Like Cormac Ryan was 27 years old, 28 years. I think he was in the same recruiting class as Henson was coming out of high school. And you replace him with a kid that's 18. Like there's a lot of issues there.
Their size concerns me. Cadeau, RJ Davis, Seth Trimble as your starting 3. That's not going to bode well, because even when I was on my team, I think we were a 6'4", 6'5" at the point guard. Reggie Bullock was 6'6", Harrison 6'8", 6'11". So it's just something you're not used to seeing from a Carolina team. So I think that this is kind of an eye opener maybe for Hubert and the guys over there. Like, hey, you know what? We might need to go out there and start getting some pros or people that we think have, a little more size for the position. And because that would help with rebounding as well. If you don't have the big man and you don't have the size across perimeter,
it's tough.
It's tough. Yeah.
You're in trouble. That's what it says. You're in trouble.
Yeah.
And maybe they make the tournament, but I don't think it's a given. I really don't.
Well, that is a problematic result for Carolina and what has been a tough start to the season. As for Alabama, complete performance. Mark Sears had 20 points. He had 7 assists in this game. 6 Crimson Tide players were in double figures. Alabama, they win. And, you come off last week against Oregon. You play a dramatic final. For some of these teams, it's been tough than coming off of whatever their MT may be. But the Alabama Crimson Tide, they're 7-2. And they've played a gauntlet of a schedule and still have more tough games to go. You got to give a lot of credit to Nate Oates and how he does that. All right, let's turn to another top 25 showdown in Jeff's other favorite part of the program. Rob Dauster, your Connecticut Huskies are a winner tonight.
They're
and
back.
they take down Baylor 76-72. UConn put together their best defensive half of the season, really, in the second half. They tightened up the nuts and bolts there. And in this game, without Alex Caravan, Baylor did not have VJ Edgecombe and Jeremy Roach to finish it out. Liam McNeely goes for 17, Samson Johnson 13, and the Huskies had 6 players with 9 or more points. Rob, what did the UConn Huskies show you tonight?
For me, the biggest thing was it was on the defensive end of the floor, and it wasn't. This is never going to be a great defensive team. This is never going to be a team that has elite defensive pieces. Like there's no Donovan Clingan on this roster. There's no Steph Castle on this roster. There's no Andre Jackson on this roster. They have small guards. It kind of is what it is, right? I thought what was really impressive tonight was one, the recovery efforts, right? Like Liam McNeely got 3 blocks. All 3 of them came after he got beat and was able to kind of track somebody down and stuck with the play and was able to clean it up a little bit. I thought Samson Johnson and Terrace Reed did a really good job not fouling. And to put that into context, Samson Johnson fouled out in 22 minutes. And we're sitting here saying he did a really good job not fouling. That tells you what he was the last couple of games before tonight. I thought that more than anything else, though, it was like the crispness of the rotate. Like if someone got beat, there was help and they were able to recover and they were able to get to where they needed to go defensively. Like the defensive rotations were there. And then shout out to Aiden Mahaney, man. Like that dude had the confidence of a 5-year-old walking into a 7-year-old's class, right? Like he was a complete mess after Maui. And I think that seeing that first 3 go down, then another 3 go down, then he had a huge one in the second half. Like I think he needed that as badly as anybody. And I think we saw that in the reaction that Hurley had to him, like with the headbutt and the celebrating. Like they were down by 5 and Hurley's out there celebrating like they just won the national title. Like I think that tells you everything you need to know about the boost that kid needed in confidence. And they kind of are what they are. Like they're not a top 5 team in America. I don't know if they have the potential to be a top 5 team in America, but it was impressive to see these small, like it was just small things that made certain defensive possessions not end up being a waste. And I thought that they were a lot better tonight. And they looked like a team that deserved to be ranked in the top 25. And that's what they are right now.
Oh,
Henson, you're
okay.
Goodman,
go
ahead.
You had me. Wait. You had me till the last line, Dauster. You had me till the last line.
I was going to say, it was fight or flight for UConn, especially Mahaney. I mean, yeah, he came out ferocious. Yeah, I'd come out ferocious too if I was like one step from not playing, right? So he came out and he responded. We're gonna say he responded. The jury's still out for me, especially from with Samson Johnson and Terrace Reed fouling as well. I think that hurts them, man. And I like them a lot more with Terrace Reed. So you wonder how that's going to shake out down the stretch. Top 25 team, I don't know. Baylor isn't as good as we thought, in my personal opinion. They just make a lot of mistakes. They take a lot of iffy shots, a lot of wasted possessions. I think discipline-wise, offensively, Baylor needs to tighten up a little bit because I feel like they were kind of somewhat in control of this game. And it's almost like with Baylor, they get going, and when it goes, the rails fall off. I mean, it just goes to shit. So they've got to figure out how to stay in the game and be consistent in their approach. But yeah, UConn's going to be okay. Top 25-ish, I'll give it to them. But I don't know if they're a cemented top 25 team.
Jeff, any other thought on that?
Yeah, Jeff.
I'm just not ready to call them a top 25 team yet. I mean, this is the only game they've won. By the way, they just got swept in Maui. So I'm not ready to call them a top 25 team, but this was a much-needed win for Dan Hurley's psyche, I would say, as much as anything, and the teams. At this point, they needed a win like this that they could kind of galvanize the team a little bit and the players and get the confidence back, because this team doesn't have the confidence that last year's team had going into the season. And here's the biggest thing.
Yeah, here's the biggest thing. Like, you lose this game, your next game is at Texas, right? And I'm not saying that like Texas is some juggernaut, but you're going on the road to a team that just beat NC State on the road tonight, right? Like Texas, that you're not going to be favored at Texas. That's a game where you're an underdog, right? Then you get Gonzaga in Madison Square Garden with Gonzaga probably coming off of Gonzaga's going to be coming off of a game against Kentucky. Like they could be coming off of a loss where they badly need a win. You lose to Baylor, and you might be staring at like another 3-game losing streak where all of a sudden you start Big East play with an under 500 record, right? Like that was a real possibility for what could have happened if you don't get this one right. So you get this righted, you win this game, you get Caravan back. It seems like your big guys are maybe starting to figure something out. I like how we threw together those lineups where you play the two big guys together. Solo Ball made a couple shots tonight. Jalen Stewart, like he's kind of embracing this glue guy role. Aiden Mahaney, it's like they're trending in the right direction. You get Caravan back, you win at Texas. All of a sudden, you go into that Gonzaga game. You're feeling yourself a little bit. You're going to be playing in UConn's third home court in Madison Square Garden, and all of a sudden, you're now staring at you could have the momentum going in the right direction heading into Big East play, which is what everybody's going to need.
I love Texas. I love them at Texas, by the way. I love UConn against Texas, by the way. I watched Texas tonight against NC State. Not convinced.
Mm-hmm. No, I mean, Texas narrowly escaped NC State. Texas is 7-1.
They shouldn't have won that game.
UConn will presumably, the ACC could have used that tonight. Could have gone to 3-13. Here's my takeaway from the game initially. Yeah, first take off this game. Number one, look at Montverde Academy guys, the freshmen. Robert White had 22 points. Liam McNeely had 17 and 8. And if you look, Cooper Flagg tonight had a line that nobody's had in 25 years. That Montverde Academy team last year, it just gets reinforced how great they were. Two, Caravan is such a glue to everything that UConn does for the good, for the good. And Baylor didn't have Edgecombe, who would have made a difference in this game. Mm-hmm. Samson Johnson, who did foul out of the game for the fourth time in 9 games, his plus-minus was a plus 18 tonight. So he did work his butt off on the interior. They did a good enough job on Omir. And Rob, as we were talking about, the difference from the first 10 minutes to the last 30 minutes from UConn in terms of guarding, dribble, penetration was significantly better as the game went on. They did a better and better job with it. And they learned, you know what? Baylor, not a great shooting team. Baylor shot 6 for 17 from 3. I'm with you, Henson. I was not very impressed with Baylor, but on a night where UConn had to have it, here's your stat of the night. The Connecticut Huskies now, fellas, are 30-1. 30-1 in their last 31 games at Gamble Pavilion. They have now won 33 straight home non-conference games, and that takes them through the end of non-conference play. They'll take that streak into next year. Let's get to toast the night here as we wrap it up. Rob Dauster, who do you want to toast tonight?
Go ahead, Goodman. Why are you
I'm going to steal one of yours. Yeah, because I want to steal one. I want to go first. And I wish I had a glass of red wine because I believe that's what this coach normally has every single night. Fanta can attest to this. Kevin Willard in Maryland, who absolutely beat the hell out of Ohio State tonight in a big win for Kevin Willard and the Terps. Kevin Willard, if I had the glass of wine, I'd toast the glass of wine. Hell of a win.
Yep. They were, I think at one point they were up like, was it 68 to 23? It was like 68 to 23 in the second half. That was an absolute ass kicking. My toast of the night is going to go to Cooper Flagg for the line that he put up, for the win that they got. I feel like we're already getting to the point where people are pushing back against like, well, maybe Cooper Flagg isn't a generational talent, this and that and whatever. I just want to put tonight's performance into context. Cooper Flagg is a reclassified freshman. Janai Broome is a fifth-year senior. When Cooper Flagg is as old as Janai Broome is right now, he's going to be on his second contract in the NBA. That's how much older Janai Broome is than Cooper Flagg. And Cooper went for 22 points, 11 rebounds, 4 assists, 3 steals, 2 blocks, 0 turnovers, and a W against the number 2 team in the country. Henson, go ahead.
I'm going to go back to my Tar Heels. because I still got love for my boys. I'm going to go toast to Ian Jackson for having 23 points, kind of being a catalyst for that team. I think he needs to play more. They've got to figure out how to get him in the lineup. He has size. He adds dynamic aspect to their start to their lineup. And so that's my toast. That's my toast of the night. Cheers to my guy Ian. Shout out Jeff going to the ladder. Oh man.
For the people listening on audio, Jeff Goodman just tried to walk over and go climb a gigantic ladder that
I was going to jump. I was going to jump off the ladder because Henson toasting a Carolina Tar Heel. Like, what are we doing, Henson?
Okay, I'm going to wrap up.
Have another one.
Henson just hit a parlay and is drinking. What is that? Bourbon? What do you got in there? A little whiskey.
This is Hendrix Gin and Sprite. Hendrix, if you want to sponsor Field of 68, that's what I sip on.
He's drinking it out of a black Solo cup. I've never seen a black Solo cup. Where'd you get a black Solo cup from?
Okay, I'm going to do my toast tonight. Grease? Did you just say
Uber
Grease?
Eats. Uber Eats, man. Yeah, just right to your door.
I'm going to toast Mississippi State. Jeff, I don't know if you saw this because you're in Durham and you're getting post game done. This is a final score. Mississippi State 90, 18th ranked Pittsburgh 57. Like, do not make Chris Jans angry. So Chris Jans gave up 87 to Butler, and I was watching him on the sidelines. He couldn't believe Thad Matta kicked his ass. He's like, what am I watching right now? I don't want to know what the Mississippi State players were told before the game because Jans had to have lit them up. They played with their tails on fire. 20 points for Keyshawn Murphy in this one. Woko had 18 and 11. Pittsburgh, I thought you were legit. You just got 33 bombed down in Stark Vegas. That one's tough. And one big toast, gentlemen,
Vegas
to the SEC. To the SEC.
That's nowhere fun to play either. We went to Stark Vegas for NIT. I think I slept in a twin bed that night. We lost.
Hey Henson, you got that in an XL? Can you send me that in an XL?
Yeah, I got you. Listen, man, I could send this to you. It's Carhartt. It was like $125. It's a nice.
I think
Jeff, you got it at Costco.
Here's the last thing. Here's the last thing I'm going to say on that show, Henson. You would have to kill an entire leopard to fit me into whatever the hell that is. So,
listen. I'm a pretty big dude. I'm just tall. Listen, triple XL. I got one for you. I got you.
Perfect. You'll work on that after you take the GM job at North Carolina, which for the record,
I think that's the. I mean, on a serious note, that's the wave, man. Getting a GM for your program to handle that type of stuff, it's tough for Hubert to coach all year. I mean, I think Tony Bennett talked about it. He had no time off. He has to go right into the portal. He has a recruit. So having a GM kind of helps a little bit, at least gathering a pool of guys and being able to go down to the coach and say, hey, look, this is who we like, this is who we have. And then, he can kind of play that game as well. So, I mean, like, hey, Andrew Luck's at Stanford for the football GM. I think that's going to be something that teams and colleges are going to have to start doing. Unless you want to run your coach to the ground and he retires in the middle of the season. Either way.
It's a great take. You're right. That's going to do it for us. Jeff's going to get on a ladder and cut down the nets. Rob's going to hit the hay. Henson's going to celebrate a parlay. And I'm going to hit the hay as well. That does it for us. Thanks to Dagan Hughes. Thanks to Trevor Verlees. Thanks to Tom. Thanks to everybody. This has been After Dark on a wild night that makes you remember this phrase. How can you not love college